Now listen to me, Caesar. There can be only one talking chimpanzee on Earth. The child of the two talking apes.
20 years back. From the year, Senor Mando, when the two talking apes arrived on Earth.
And we believe that the male and female talking apes have come to us out of the future.
A month before the talking apes arrived on Earth.
From now on, you have but one assignment. To find that talking ape.
He's a performing ape for my circus.
A talking ape?
That idiot!
This chimpanzee...
Get out of retraction immediately. Announce that the talking ape has been apprehended and put to death.
Incredible! The talking apes!
Hello to all you chimps, orangutans, gorillas, except for you, Proximus Caesar. Yeah, got my eye on you. You underdwellers, you damn dirty humanoids, and those of the Eagle Clan. I am Richard Wolosky, and I want to welcome you back to Talking Apes. This is your Planet of the Apes podcast, where over the past 9 years, going on 10, we have broken down the live-action and animated Planet of the Apes TV series, the comics, we've talked with actors, author, and the fan community. Now everyone, give an Apes Together strong salute for my co-host, Kevin Toft. Hey, Kevin.
Strong.
There you go.
Apes Together.
Apes
strong.
Together strong. You know we'll be doing that everywhere we go now.
That's it. That's,
yeah, so
you know,
so instead of
law.
hello, this even may replace the hey hey. Dare I say?
Go. Yeah, I'm with it.
Now, Kevin, are you all rested up from April?
Yeah. You know what? I feel like we left some stuff on the table, but you know what I would say about that is that guess what? There's going to be more Aprils coming. Mm-hmm. So if it didn't happen this time, or you got an idea, well, we should have done. Let us know, but we've got more. I think there's more we can do for next April, but I had a blast this April. Some of the best interviews, some of the best people. I saw some of the best things. So, yeah, very excited.
All right, well, with that, we got to make room for the kingdom. That's right. Coming up on this episode, we're going to give our thoughts and review the latest in the Planet of the Apes saga, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We have lots to say about this new film, but really, I was just disappointed there were no vampires, pigs, or puddles to debate.
Wait. I have to break in here. Did I hear Richard talking about vampires, pigs, and puddles?
Is that former Talking Apes co-host, Mark Oguschewitz? Mark, is that you?
Yep, that's me. I heard vampires and pigs and all this stuff, and I just had to interrupt. You better not be saying that you saw this kind of stuff in Kingdom.
You know, you're like Beetlejuice or Candyman. Instead of saying their name 3 times, we just mention vampires, pigs, and puddles, and you just pop on here. But yes, to spoiler alert, I did see a lot of pigs and vampires and puddles in the movie. Or did I?
Or did you? Hey guys, how you doing?
We are doing great. Good to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Tell us what you've been doing the last couple of years since we've seen you last.
Oh, God, I've been doing a lot of stuff. As a lot of people know, I have a website called Underexposed Cinematic Treasures where I recommend underseen and unseen movies to people. And lately, we've also been meeting a lot of celebrities, and we've been getting movie recommendations from them that we've been posting on the website and on our Facebook group. One in particular would be of real interest to the apes community is I went to a event for Andor, and not only did I get a recommendation from Diego Luna, but Andy Serkis gave me a recommendation as well, and that is on my website.
Please tell me he said his recommendation is 13 going on 30.
No. And so I've been doing that a lot and concentrating on that. I get like one full review recommendation up a month. I'm starting to put together some video versions of my reviews that'll hopefully be up in the next month or two. And I'm also in the process of writing a feature-length screenplay that I'm hoping to produce and make in the next year or two.
Wow.
Is that all?
Is that all? Well, I've been listening to a lot of Talking Apes.
Oh, there you go. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of movies and listening to a lot of Talking Apes. And over the last week, I've been watching a lot of apes because I revisited all the all the reboot. I don't know if I really call them reboots because they don't feel like reboots as much as just continuations of the Apes story. When I watched Rise, Dawn, and War, and oh my God, I didn't remember them as good as they were. I remember loving them, but just rewatching them again, these are three amazing, amazing films. And not just Planet of the Apes films, just as overall movies, just the way they're put together and how these movies got ignored come award season. I don't know, especially the effects.
That's why I never watch the Oscars anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't always get it right, but I still watch.
But I remember when I saw Rise for the first time thinking, this is a good movie. And I gave it like 4.5 stars. I didn't give it 5 stars. Like I gave Dawn and War 5 stars on Letterboxd, but I only gave Rise 4.5. And when I was done watching it this time, I upgraded it to 5. It is just so well put together. It is such a great start to a new series of characters and just creations of lore behind the Apes franchise, and had such respect and love for the old movies that when I was done watching it, I was like, wow, I don't remember it being this good. They're just, those 3 movies are just amazing, amazing films.
It's funny when you talk to people who have just seen Kingdom, they too have gone back to watch the last trilogy. They say the same thing. I forgot how great these films were.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Kevin, did you just rewatch the last trilogy before you saw Kingdom?
Bits and pieces, because all right, I'll admit something. Every time they're on, I watch them, so I kind of have them loaded up, over the years before this movie came out. Oh, great, Rise is on, watch that, or and I watch it. So did I need to? No, but if it's on, do I watch it? Yes.
Very much so.
So it wasn't like, oh, I better go watch these. It was like, oh, cool, it's on again.
All right, now, before we get into our thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, gotta thank Disney for inviting the 4 of us, Sarah went along with us, to a media screening last week.
Yes.
And now, after we saw the film, the 4 of us got into a little huddle in Burbank, and there you go. We just couldn't wait to just talk about this film, the Easter eggs, the plot, the visual effects, and we just can't wait now to share those thoughts with all the apes out there. Now, before we get into that, let me read a summary of the plot here. Director Wes Ball breathes new life into the global epic franchise set several generations in the future following Caesar's reign, in which apes are the dominant species living harmoniously and humans have been reduced to living in the shadows. As the new tyrannical ape leader Proximus Caesar builds his empire, one young ape, Noah, undertakes a harrowing journey that will cause him to question all that he has known about the past and to make the choices that will define a future for apes and humans alike.
Myself, as a fan, I'm very, very thrilled at the opportunity to contribute to this great legacy of these movies.
All right, here we go. Pictures up.
Whereas the last 3 movies were about Caesar and his struggle. Here, our movie, you cut 300-400 years after. And you see what has become of the apes, what's become of his legacy,
Caesar!
what's become of the humans and the world.
What a wonderful...
Richard, I have some heresy to discuss. This film has underrepresented orangutans. Well, there was only one orangutan, there should have been many. That's my review of this film. I'm out of here.
Yeah, but he was one of the best characters in the movie, yes. So I don't know if they were really underrepresented.
Well, even the last trilogy, we had Maurice. I wanted more. I wanted more.
Yeah.
All right, now, in this movie, this is the cast, and I put a couple of films that we all may know the actor from. And tell me if you know these. Owen Teague, who plays Noah, he was in It Chapter 2. Of course, those films were, 10 years ago? So I don't remember him being in the film.
I never saw it.
Were they that long ago?
They were a while. It 2 was not too long ago, but...
Isn't it also?
Yeah, they broke it up into two parts this the last time, and the first it is actually really good. It's a really good movie. I don't remember which character he played, and since we never see him in Kingdom, I couldn't even recognize him because he's a monkey in the movie. He's CGI. But the first it is definitely worth seeing. It's a really great representation of the book by Stephen King. The second movie, if you watch the first one, you want to watch the second one, but it's not as good as the first one. The first one was really great, and the second one, not so much, but still worth watching.
He played a character, Patrick Hockstetter. Doesn't that name just ring a bell? No? Okay. No, that's okay. All right, he was also in The Stand, so he's got a thing for horror. Also in the cast is Freya Allen, who plays May, and she was in The Witcher, Baghead, and the War of the Worlds BBC TV series. I know everyone I talk to who have seen Witcher really likes Witcher.
Yeah, but from the rest of that, I would say she might want to get a new agent.
Well, apparently she did. She got apes.
Yeah, if this is the new agent that got her this one, bravo.
All right, Kevin Durand, who plays and voices Proximus Caesar, he was in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, 3:10 to Yuma, and X-Men Origins Wolverine. So there's some notable films there.
He was one of the assassins in Austin Powers.
Yeah, two of those movies, the Wolverine, the X-Men Wolverine, that's the really bad one, right? The one where they had Deadpool and they sealed up his mouth.
Oh,
is that one?
I don't know. Isn't there like Wolverine and the Wolverine?
Right. Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to badmouth the one he was in because I'm probably mixing the two up. But I'm assuming you're talking about the remake to 3:10 to Yuma, which is definitely worth checking out.
Fantastic film. All right, we'll wrap it up with Peter Macon, who voices and plays Rocca, the orangutan. And he was in Dexter, and he does many voices on the show with a Family Guy, and he plays Bortus in The Orville.
I apologize, Captain. Am I disturbing you?
No, I'm just curious.
It is called gum.
She is smarter than most.
Love Bortus.
I knew that voice when we were watching it, but I could not place it. And immediately I went home. It's like, okay, who is Peter Macon? Bortus? Bortus, that's you?
Everybody was great, top to bottom.
Oh yeah. Even under all of that digital makeup and the mocap suits.
No, the performances were legit.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. All right, now, as of May the 10th, which was when the film came out, the film had already made $6.6 million in advanced screenings. That's a good chunk of change. And they're predicting that the film's going to make about 50 to 55 million over this weekend, which is a big boost from what we've been getting lately. So the Apes might turn things around for the box office, and it might turn things around for Disney.
Good.
So yeah, and it all comes down to the Apes Together Strong.
Apes save Mickey.
Yeah. They're gonna pull Disney out of the slump.
Yeah.
All right, so to all the apes who are listening and watching right now, be warned because from here we will review the film with spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film just yet, come back and see if you agree with some of our assessments.
Attention Skywalkers! Spoilers ahead!
Warning!
Attention Skywalkers! Spoilers ahead!
Warning!
Spoilers ahead! Spoilers ahead!
Here we go.
You've been warned.
Let's give our initial thoughts. So, Mark, you're our guest. Give us your initial thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Okay, so my initial thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. First of all, when I was finished watching it, and I realized that out of all the franchises that I've ever seen, Planet of the Apes might be my favorite because, with the exception of Mad Max, the Mad Max franchise, it's one of the very few that doesn't have a single bad movie in it. And I know a lot of people will sit there and say, Well, what about the Tim Burton one? But I don't really consider the Tim Burton one part of this franchise. I don't know how you guys feel.
No, I agree.
Because it takes place in a totally different world, totally different timeline, none of the same characters, and we don't even know if that one's on Earth or where that takes place. So when it comes to all the stuff other than the Tim Burton one, it's like I can put in any of these at any time. If somebody were to come over and say, "Hey, do you want to watch fill in the blank Planet of the Apes movie?" I'll be there. And so that's how strongly I feel about this franchise. Now, before I saw Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and came to this realization, I love this franchise. Everybody knows that. I did not like the marketing campaign at all. I did not like the ads. They didn't look good to me. I also didn't really like the fact that we weren't going to follow Caesar's story by like continuing where we left off with Cornelius and all that. And so I wasn't really sure what to expect going in. But when I came out, Together Apes Strong, I got a great movie. It was almost like, I don't remember when we talked about Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I told everyone that I really wasn't looking forward to a whole new franchise. I thought they should have left it alone. And then I went into Rise, and I was so grateful they didn't take my advice because Rise was such a great movie. Here they did the same thing. They surprised me with a really, really great movie, and they did it in a very smart way. Wes Ball is really good at creating worlds. He did a great job in the Maze Runner movies. He does a great job here. So it's really easy to fall into this world, fall into these new characters. He gave us some really great characters, gave us a really great story. And for the first 2/3, maybe a little bit more, I was into this thinking, wow, this is the best movie I've seen all year. This is the best movie I've seen all year. The last third, and we'll probably get into this a lot more detail later, felt a little rushed to me. And I felt like the movie kind of started to lose me in the last half hour, where it all of a sudden wasn't my favorite movie of the year. Dune Part 2 is still sitting there on top with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at number 2, because I didn't think it hit the landing for that last half hour. Now, that being said, the first 2/3 or 3/4 of this movie has got some of the best filmmaking and the best storytelling and best character building that I've seen all year. And so that last half hour was satisfactory enough that it didn't ruin my experience at all. I really, really enjoyed that first 3/4. Great action. Didn't forget about characters and themes, which is so important to the Planet of the Apes world. The little the respect that it showed to the previous films, the little Easter eggs to the previous films, and I gotta say it, at least one, I think maybe 2 Easter eggs referring to the TV series, which I know we're gonna get into a little bit later. I was really, really, really happy with it, and I can't wait to go see it again.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. After hearing what you had said about the trailers building up to this, I thought, oh, should we take Mark with us? Can we leave him in the car and crack a window?
I have this way of going to see movies, and I always tell people that they should do this, because a lot of people go into movies with expectations, and that can really ruin a movie for you.
Oh, yes.
And what I've always learned is forget your expectations. Forget what the trailers show you. Forget what other people are saying. Forget the reviews. Go into a movie, empty your head, let the movie introduce itself to you, let it tell you what it wants to be, and then accept it on its own terms. And so doing that, I go into movies sometimes with really bad trailers, like Paddington had a really bad trailer. I only saw it because I was asked to review it, and wow, 5 minutes of that movie, I knew I was going to love it, and it was a great movie.
Kevin, what are your initial thoughts?
I'm pretty in line with Mark, except the end. I didn't have the ending issue. All along, of course, I'm very visually oriented, because of being an artist and graphic designer and all that stuff like that. So, and I really love shows, movies, whatever, where I can just be taken into the story because a production designer did their job, and I can just relax and enjoy. And of course, then and that a screenwriter did their job, and that everybody did their job so much so that I can really just lean into it and enjoy, which is exactly what happened here. The other thing that Mark was saying, I really hit on is, like, shows that have multiple episodes in a series, like Back to the Future, Dune, those are great examples of really just picking up where you left off and not making it so, which is what I felt happened here. Is I feel like, okay, there's a lot of detail, but I was okay with the jump because, Richard, you remember we talked on the previous episodes in April, we were talking about, hey, if the payoff for me is if we get to a 1968 reboot along this storyline, which jumping 300 years, totally, yes, I need to see some evolution. And guess what? We did. The way these apes interact with each other, their society structure, their building techniques, we're seeing that growth. I think the next movie is maybe it's 2 before we get to the 68, maybe it's 1. I don't know how they're going to do it, but we're getting closer. We're seeing that, and I love that detail. For me, beautiful storytelling on all levels. And there's more storytelling. There's more in a movie than simply the lines telling you the story. The visuals also support that telling of the story, which this did, I would say, perfectly. I think all these movies, really all the way back to the very first one, it all tells the story beautifully. And it's that big question that Taylor always asks: how did this upside down world, come to be? I felt the same way about Star Wars. After, we all saw episodes 4, 5, and 6, we've seen it 100 times, comes out on videotape, we're watching, and you start to go, gosh, what is a clone? What is it? What does a Jedi Knight look like? How does that go? You start to, it's like, well, yeah, we've all seen Planet of the Apes, Beneath, War, all those movies that came out in the, in the 60s and 70s. You start to say, well, yeah, how did it get like this? I mean, it's cool that I love this, but gosh, it would be neat to see. Thank you for making these movies, because now we're getting to see all of this, I think, in a very top-notch fashion.
I thought it was a great thing that they set this 300 years after war, because there's more degradation in society, and the building structures, they're all decaying.
Yeah.
And in the beginning sequence, the apes are swinging all over these buildings in Los Angeles, because we see LAX, we see some of the distinguishable Los Angeles bridges, and I didn't know. It didn't register to me at first that these were buildings. It wasn't until later on, Kevin, you said, yeah, they were swinging on buildings in the beginning. It's like, they were? And I went back and watched some clips, like, oh, they were swinging on buildings. And not only
that reveal was amazing.
It was fantastic, yeah. But you know what? When you go see a movie like this, there's so much information, and you zero in on so many different things. And I was zeroing in on these new characters. So it's kind of a movie you got to see a couple of times to really take it all in.
Well, and how about that, Mark? You were saying how quickly we started caring about these characters. They established themselves, and then bam, all of a sudden I started caring.
Well, that was the key to a big part of the movie's success, was the fact that, like, I really wanted to see more about Cornelius and all the apes that we grew to love, Maurice and all them, the other movies. But because of the way they start the film, with us giving us a chance to say goodbye to Caesar, and then advancing themselves a number of years by immediately getting us to care about these new characters, it all of a sudden became okay to me. This is what I mean by let the movie introduce itself to you and accept on its own terms. I would have made a movie about the clan, that's Caesar's clan, but they decided to make a different movie, and they immediately introduce us to 3 great characters. They get us to care about them really quick, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I'm in for the ride on this, because I'm loving where they're going with it. It may not have been where I would have taken it, but that's okay, because I am loving where they're going with it.
Yeah, it's like the polar opposite of a Michael Bay film, right?
Oh, don't even go there. And the fact that we followed this different clan known as the Eagle clan that was away from Caesar, I thought was a great choice. But getting back to the 300-year time jump, because it's been 300 years, a lot of the apes have forgotten the teachings of Caesar,
or distorted them a little.
But
Right.
Proximus will take his teachings and say, these apes don't really understand, so I'm going to call myself Proximus Caesar, and I'll twist Caesar's words to fit my own need, my own structure.
Right.
And I
Agenda.
think if it was any closer, maybe like 100 years or 200 years, I think apes then would go, oh yeah, Caesar, I know who he is. But 300 years was perfect.
Yeah.
Right, but it was my understanding. I'm sorry, I just want to say it was my understanding that Noah's clan, Noah's the main ape,
Yeah.
new ape character for those
He
who
belongs
haven't
to the
seen the
Eagle
movie.
clan.
Right. I was under the impression that they didn't even know of Caesar's existence because he didn't know about Caesar.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And now it's teaching these apes like, oh, there's a lawgiver. There's someone who's already established the laws and customs. Great. We want to know about this. So now you have one clan knowing about it, 2 clans, 3 clans, and all of a sudden they're forming a big unified ape society.
Now, I get the feeling that Rocca's clan knew more of the original Caesar's teaching.
Oh, very much so. Oh yeah. Oh, he knew all about Caesar because he had that symbol that we saw in Rise of the Planet of the Apes when with James Franco's house, the window the round window that had the design.
Yeah.
He had that in a little medallion, and he had it carved. He had it drawn out on a rock in his little cave area. So he knew all about Caesar.
Right, and Rocca, so once again, for people who maybe haven't seen the movie, he's an orangutan that they meet. That Noah, when he joins up with the girl May, it turns out her name is that he's the Rocca's the orangutan that starts the journey with them.
Yes.
Right.
Having just watched the last trilogy, I was so pumped to see where this was going to go, where Wes Ball was going to take us. And I've never seen Maze Runner, so I didn't really know where he was. This guy is a very young guy. This guy is he's just brilliant. Now, how could you follow something like the last trilogy? I had no idea what they were going to do. Would it be more apes fighting humans, humans fighting apes? We've done that. So where are we going to go now? This time around, it was apes fighting apes. And I love that twist. We got a little bit of a taste of that in War with Koba, but now there are these gorillas who have got military bases and in these campgrounds, and the way they structure their own society, I thought was just so far ahead of what I was ever going to expect. And I thought this film was extremely original.
Richard, I think they're laying the groundwork for the scrolls, because if you look at human past, and you go back into, well, when did they start writing things down? The stuff that I've studied and heard is that it was all campfire stories until the Israelites decided to start writing down some of these campfire stories. I think that's where we're at now, is obviously with Rocca, they don't have anything writing. Rocca knew that the books that he had symbols, had meaning. I think we're close to seeing that evolution because they're so close now. That Rocca can understand the concept of that whatever happens in the next movie, whether it's at the beginning of it or the end of it, because I surmise there's a clash coming up in the next one, that somehow we start moving towards the Lawgiver's scrolls. It's going to have to get established in this next movie or the movie after that if we're going to get to that 1968 reboot.
Oh yeah, they introduced these letters are symbols. You put all these letters together, they form a language.
Again,
and at this point, it's like, okay, good. Now, someone go grab a pen and start writing this stuff down.
Well, they have to establish a alphabet, right? And they have to, but I think they're close, man. And I love
they are very
to
close.
see this stuff.
Oh yeah, and when they had that book that they found in the armory at the end, an ABC book, that is going to be their Bible.
Well,
that Dr. Seuss ABC book is going to be their Bible for their language.
I think that was very clever of them.
Yeah, oh, very much so. Lastly, I can say I put my trust in Disney, and Disney did not let me down. All right, now let's get
for
into
once.
more of the...
I said for once.
Yeah, I know what you said. That's gonna be edited out. All right, now let's get into the nitty gritty here. What was the best aspect of the film for you? Let's narrow things down. Kevin, do you want to take this lead?
Aspect of it? It's that it picked up the ball and kept running in the correct direction. A lot of times, Mark, you probably can think of a million franchises that have done this. The ball gets handed off and somebody runs in the wrong direction. And the audience and the people on the sideline are going, "What are you doing?" This team, however this gets selected, however they make their choices, they are able to understand that what behind and in front is, and they're able to responsibly run in the proper direction with us and get us to what we want to see, but what we need to see to keep this story going. So for me, that's the best aspect. If you're talking aspect, that's the fact that they were able to not veer off in some wild direction.
All right, Mark.
I've got a couple of things, or three things that really kind of I felt were the best aspects. One is the world building is absolutely fantastic. And by that, I don't mean just the design of, the world with the collapsing buildings and the vines all over the buildings and the very jungly aspect. And, they really, although that is a big part of it, because they really did create a very alien kind of world with the CGI and the production design. But they also created the world building by creating really interesting clans. We get this one main clan of apes that is just really fascinating. All the characters are really well built. They all have their own personalities, sometimes because of the way they looked. I know that in the earlier films, like Dawn and War, they did stuff like they gave one character a scar and stuff like that to make it a little bit easier so you know who everybody was. And that was a little difficult here. They didn't really do as good a job with that. But all the apes had their own characters, characterizations. They all had their own attitudes. They all had their own way of speaking. When we meet Noah/May, she's her
Nova.
own person.
Nova, not Noah.
What did I say?
Noah.
Oh,
no,
Noah.
it's Noah and Nova. Come on.
That's the first lesson of screenwriting too. Is you don't have characters' names that sound the same. Okay, so when we first meet Nova as a human, the human character, she's got her own attitudes and she goes off in her own direction. And so, as a creation of a world, a whole new world when it comes to production design, characters, and attitudes and themes, the writer, I don't remember the name of the writer, but he and Wes Ball, they did a really great job in creating this futuristic world that felt very real.
Here.
I really love that.
Well, it was written by Josh Friedman.
Josh Friedman. Okay, so give credit
I want to give him a shout out.
Yeah, no, he did a great job in creating these characters, and of course, mixed with the voiceover talent and the actions of the what do you call it? motion
Mocap
actors. I don't know. I personally don't know if the mocap actors were the actual actors or not.
Yes,
they were. Okay, so shout out to all these people. I mean, this is really solid filmmaking, because when you watch a movie like this, you have to buy the world that you're in, and everything that goes along in this world has to make sense to the world that's been created. And they did a really good job with that.
Andy Serkis did work on the film too.
Yeah, he was a consultant, whereas in the last trilogy, he had more of a hand in the development and the creation of the movements. But here, he was just a consultant, which I'm sure they needed his consulting every day. It's like, Andy, I got one more question. Hold on, I get you on the other line.
Well,
I'd have him on set every day.
I almost wish he had played the main ape. No offense to the person who played the main ape, but it would have been really cool. You know how Roddy McDowall played Cornelius, then he played Caesar, and then he played Galen. Why did they do that with Andy Serkis? That would have been really cool.
You know what? I loved what Owen Teague did with the role. I think they needed another personality in. So it's like, wait a minute. See, you move just like Caesar.
Yeah, as long as Andy's available to consult, I think they'll be fine.
Owen Teague was fine. He was great. I thought it would have been a really interesting thing. The other thing I liked, and Richard, you hit on this a little bit, was the fact that it wasn't another human versus ape story. It was now apes versus apes. And I thought that was really interesting because before we get back to the human versus apes, because I thought we were going to see like a whole bunch of native humans that couldn't talk, and it was going to be their, we were going to see them and how they worked with the apes. And although they're a little piece of this film, that's kind of left for another movie. And I have a feeling it's going to be an important part of another movie. Here it was, how did the different apes take the different lessons of Caesar? You got one clan that doesn't seem to even know Caesar existed, but then Noah, who's the main ape from that, or the main ape that we follow from that clan, he starts to learn about Caesar and the interpretation that he gets of Caesar from Raka. And then you've got this other ape who totally flipped the book on what Caesar was saying. And so it's now, hey, let's see how the apes get along and how they conflict before we get back to the humans. So we got a very different story there. And I thought that was really interesting. And I also thought, oh my God, and this is all being done in CGI, and it looks incredibly real. I will never, ever be able to look at some of these movies I've seen in the past. Like, I just watched Godzilla X Kong. And I enjoyed it. I had fun with it, but I don't know if I'd be able to watch it again, because if they can make the apes and the backgrounds look this good as they did in Kingdom, why couldn't they do that in Godzilla X Kong, which still looked
like I always say, these apes, they're telling you they're CGI. No, these are real apes.
Well,
they
that's
went
the thing.
and cast these real apes and taught them how to act. I think they did a great job with that. Now with the scrolls, it's almost going to be like the Bible. It's like, okay, what is the actual teachings? Because you're going to get, hey, what do you recall Caesar saying? Okay, and how about you? Okay, I'll write this down. I'll write that down. But then you get Caesar. He's like up in that ape heaven going, I didn't say that. That's not what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to go back and watch these films. They'll get them on DVD. The apes will get Disney Plus.
Right.
I got one more, and this will be really, really quick because I know we're going to get into this more detail later. But I also, one of the best aspects was the treatment of Nova/May. And
you know what? Just from here on, just call her May. She was called Nova for like 5 minutes.
I don't want people to be confused.
She was called Nova for 5 minutes.
The relationship between May and Noah was, at first it looked like, oh, we're just going to get that same relationship we've seen before, where they learn to human and ape learns to respect each other, and they do learn to respect each other. But by the end of the film, they take them to a level where they respect each other, but they don't necessarily trust each other. And oh my God, I can't wait to see where they bring this in the next film, because they might end up being enemies in the next film, sort of like that Professor X Magneto relationship.
Yeah.
Now for me, I would say the characters. The characters for me, I loved them. After watching the last trilogy and seeing the relationship between Caesar and Maurice, I think that those two need to have their own Disney Plus series.
Yeah.
Love those characters. And I didn't think they could give us characters that we could connect with right away, but they did. The apes all helping out the apes, trying to get the eggs, because they've got to take eagle eggs and bring them back to the eagle clan and raise those eagles. And when Noah cracked his eggs, the other was like, oh, we're going to help you out here, okay? Don't worry, we're going to be there for you. And I just love how they were there for each other. The character connections were just so strong. And I think Noah and Raka, these were great follow-ups to Caesar and Maurice. And you put May in there, you get a great unbeatable trio. So it's kind of like the TV series. Instead of 2 humans and an ape, now it's 2 apes and a human. so I think that can be an Easter egg for the TV series, but I don't really think so. And I'm glad May wasn't mute. Watching the trailers, I didn't watch all the trailers because I didn't want to get too spoiled. And honestly, seeing the eagles in every trailer, I thought, what eagles? What are you doing? So I didn't want to watch anymore. So I know, Mark, I think at one point you said they did have a shot in one of the trailers where May did speak.
Yes, it's in the 3rd trailer. And this is what I mean about the trailers not being that good, because when they show it happen in the 3rd trailer, it's actually not the actual reveal of when she speaks. It's actually the second time we hear her speak.
Yeah.
And so it's not as effective. And they just didn't, the people creating the trailers didn't seem to understand what the greatness of the movie was.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they didn't make May mute, because she added so much by being able to have conversations with the others to forward the stories. If she just pulled a Linda Hamilton and just made sounds, that would have been, I think, tiring. But to hear her speak in full sentences, because the first time we hear her, she's yelling Noah when she's in the middle of that cornfield, and she's got to get out of there. And so we hear her, and all the apes were like, "Did that just come from that human?" But then later on, not Caesar, Noah and Rocket go look for her, and she turns around and she says, "Well, I can understand you. I can speak." And it's like, well, and they both just look at her like, "What?" And Rocket drops the bag like K2SO did in Rogue One.
It's better than that though, because she turns to him and she says, "I have a name."
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's right.
Because of the whole Nova thing, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Richard, I don't think they did. I mean, her speaking isn't just something, a plot. It's like, oh, we need to have at least one talking human in this. We're building to that thing that I've been talking about, that next conflict. That this virus, although most humans are affected by it, go mute or possibly a little dumb, just like we've seen recently, not all viruses hit everybody the same way, and that there are still. So I'm expecting another conflict that is going to take the talkers out.
There's also an intelligence to the way that they use her speaking, because a lot of movies or a lot of filmmakers would have waited really long time to then convince you that she doesn't speak. So it's like a shocking moment. It's just a moment of, oh my God, and has no real meaning behind it when she finally speaks. This happens relatively early on after meeting her. This is not a moment of, oh my God, she speaks. It's a moment of storytelling. And this is how we're going to tell the story. And this is how we're going to get to know these characters. And I could be wrong. I wasn't the filmmaker, but I don't think when she speaks that first time, you're supposed to go, oh my God, she spoke. Whereas a lot of other filmmakers may have waited another half hour of her just being silent to
No, it wasn't her saying, "Get your paws off me, you damn dirty apes." And first time she just yelled Noah because she was caught between a rock and a hard place, and she had to speak. And she did say earlier that she had stayed mute when she met Noah and Raka, because, as she said, her silence has kept her alive.
But this is so much better. And when I say that, I mean, it's not necessarily better than the moment we get in Planet of the Apes, because we already know that he can talk in Planet of the Apes because we hear him at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
But in other movies, they'll just keep him silent for 3/4 of that movie so they can get that, oh my God moment.
We still got
it. Yeah, I don't even know if I got that moment, because to me, when she speaks, it's like it's like an oh my God moment, but light. Because he wasn't trying to shock us. He was just trying to show a progression of a story and a progression of a character.
So she's the first human we see. And immediately I start to think, gosh, why doesn't she have dreadlocks? And why does she have a tailored shirt? And I was, that entered my mind when we saw her. Now at the watering hole, this is why I think it worked. At the watering hole, we got to see mute humans wearing their loincloths, damn dirty humans. And then the contrast, then it all starts to go click, 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 click. When you see her, oh, okay, she is different. Now we know because Raka says when they talk, but at this point, then she calls out Noah at the watering hole. We see that whole scene that takes place there. And then she calls out Noah. That's why that worked for me. The way it worked for me is that contrast at the watering hole. It all starts to click into place really fast. Hey, there's something going on here. More than her. It's not just that she can talk. I realize now that there's something else about her we haven't found out yet. And what do? I get more interested, more drawn in, more intrigued.
Yeah, they really flipped the script on you, because you did see those feral humans over there. So you think, okay, she's one of them. So you're thinking, okay, she is one of them. She can't speak, and moments later, she does speak. It's like, oh, so that's where the aha moment came from, because they give you a false sense of security in knowing that you think you know who May is, but you don't.
But Rocca teases it a little at the campfire. He says, she's different, but she still hasn't spoken yet. And I'm like, really?
Maybe it didn't work. Maybe it didn't work on me as an aha moment because I also expected it because it's revealed in the last trailer. And so, yeah, so since I saw it, maybe it was their intention.
Well, then it was spoiled for you then.
Yeah, but I mean, how important could that? I mean, you're not seeing, twist endings. What does Rosebud really mean in Citizen Kane in the trailer? So you got to think the filmmakers maybe thought that. I mean, I don't know what they thought. Maybe Westfall wanted to shock me, but the person who did the advertising didn't care. I don't know. I just know that I'm so glad that it happened earlier in the film and that we didn't wait 3/4 of the way for the movie as if that's the big twist.
Yeah,
it definitely felt like the right time.
It was a great moment, and the way it happens is just fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, from there, let's go down even nittier and grittier and talk about a favorite moment. Now, I'm going to take lead on this because I've been harping on those darn eagles. I didn't know how are they going to fit into this movie. And when you see that, oh, it's the Eagle clan, they're raising eagles. I thought, okay, that's brilliant. Apes raising eagles. I really like that. Now,
it's a hunting tool.
Once again, spoiler alert. When Noah at the very end, he's getting beaten by Proximus, and he only had one more move until he was gonna be thrown off the cliff, and this was a make or break moment. Okay, Noah, you have one more move. What's it gonna be? And he calls up to the eagles flying above with a unique whistle that he had learned from his father, and the other apes around him, they mimicked him until the moment where the flock of eagles came flying and they dive bombed Proximus.
Well, I think that's a call that everybody in the Eagle clan would know.
Yeah, exactly, which is why when he did it, everyone else said, oh, I know what you're doing because we're part of the same clan. Yeah. And they all called up the eagles. The eagles were like, hey, you need our help? Hey, what's this guy doing to Noah? And they all dive bombed him and attacked Proximus and pushed him over the cliff. And Alfred Hitchcock would be very, very proud of that moment.
Yes, very Hitchcockian.
It's interesting because generally when things like that happen in movies, I don't like it. Like when a bad guy and a good guy are fighting and the good guy, there's no way they can get out of it. So somebody just comes out of nowhere and saves the day. I generally don't like that. But what was really smart about how they did it here is they set it up really well. Because if you remember at the beginning of the movie, that one eagle did not like Noah.
Right.
And then throughout the movie, you could see the trust getting more and more until he finally lands on Noah's arm. Yeah, and so they really, really set it up so that when it happened, it didn't just feel like, oh, there's no way you can get out of this predicament, so somebody else is just going to come out of nowhere to save it. They actually set it up that it just made sense that would happen.
Oh, yeah. But when you saw the eagles flying above, it thought, okay, these eagles, they ain't going to help out Noah. Yeah. But in fact that they did this is the moment that made the hairs on all parts of my body stand up. It was that stand up, apes together strong moment.
It goes a little bit further back to what Mark was saying, because not only we talked about the opening and the gathering of those eggs and what that meant to them culturally, and then the fact that Noah's dad was the eagle master. Like, he wasn't just some like guy, he was like the main eagle guy. Like, as far as eagles go, he kind of it's everything that happened there. He was the main guy. So there was pressure on Noah, I think, because he hadn't had his chance to go through the rite of passage to raise his egg and learn everything he knew from watching his dad, and he was unsure. This was uncharted territory for him, and there's a little fear and trepidation. But as we go through the story, like what Mark is saying, the story building, that he didn't just want all of a sudden go, huzzah, I'm the eagle master. We see they sprinkle it in the right places in the movie so that when the end happens for Richard's moment, we're not sitting there going, really? It was like,
for me, it wasn't predictable.
Right. I didn't know.
Because Noah never had that connection. But when he does the whistle, and all the other apes do the whistle, the eagle's like, okay, someone's in trouble. We could help our clan. Now, Kevin, was there a specific moment in the film that made you happy or sad, or if you narrow it down to one moment in the film that spoke to you, what would it be?
There's one. Look, oh man. Well, okay, I gasped at the reveal of those buildings when they're climbing in the beginning, because when it starts out, you think they're in a forest and it's a tree, and like I said, the way that's revealed, I kind of went when I realized they were in a skyscraper. So
Are you talking about when they're getting the eggs?
Yes, when it first starts out, it looks like a tree. Watch it again. You'll know when they're at the bottom, when they're starting it, you can't tell that it's a building. But as they ascend, things start to change.
Well, because there's girders.
You start to realize, oh my gosh, you're seeing the levels,
big foliage.
I
didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that either until Kevin brought it up.
At the bottom of it, it looks like they're going up a tree, but as they ascend, you start to see, well, wait a minute, that's sort of uniformed. Oh, well, wait a minute, that's a level. Well, wait, that's rebar. Oh my gosh, we're in a building. That was visually, I mean.
Well, plus when they zoom out and give you those great establishing moments, you do see that if you live in LA, it's like, I know that bridge, and is that Angel Stadium down there, or the Dodger Stadium? Is that Dodger Stadium? Because they did pass a couple of stadiums.
So a clumsy way of doing that would be to just reveal a wide shot and let you see stuff. This was very smooth. Whoever put this plan together, they get an A+. Mm-hmm. I would like to say that my other. I can't say it because you said I only get one. But
all right, you have another one. Go ahead.
Rocca at the campfire and explaining the naming of Nova and feeding her. Let's
save that for the Easter egg part.
For the Easter eggs.
All right.
But I felt like I was at that campfire with them. You know what I mean? So that was a very favorite moment for me too.
Okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right, Mark. Give us your moment.
Okay. Before I give you my moment, I just want to say about Kevin's moment, because Kevin's all about the production design. I had a very similar feel when Noah goes through the tunnel and he comes out on the city. And you see all the vines on the buildings and the deserted roads and all that. I felt very much the same way. And it's all part of Westfall's world building.
Well, that was their forbidden zone.
Yeah,
right. The Eagle Clan's forbidden zone. Yes.
I am waiting for him to create a world on his own, because the Maze Runner movies were based on books. This movie's based on a series. I'm waiting for him to create something from scratch. I'm wondering what he'll give us. I think it'll be pretty amazing. Anyway, my favorite moment, and there's two reasons for this, is the opening of the film. We get to say goodbye to Caesar.
Yeah.
Although he is effectively felt throughout this whole entire movie.
Oh, true.
And I don't know if that would have happened if we didn't get that moment at the beginning where we get to say goodbye to him. And the reason it's my favorite thing in the film is because I went into this movie not expecting much. And they opened it with a scene that made me realize, oh crap, they're taking this seriously. Look what they just drew me into, the emotions that are already coming out of me, and we're 5 minutes into the film. It allowed me to sink back into my seat even more and go, okay, give me what you got.
Yeah.
Because it worked really well. I mean, were you guys not totally emotionally drawn in by that?
They had me from frame one.
Yeah.
And that's what an opening of a movie should do.
I didn't expect it, and I like the fact that we had closure on the last trilogy, because you're right, we didn't ever get a chance to say goodbye to Caesar, and this was the time. And the fact that they actually went and did this, because we didn't need the scene, but we needed the scene.
We did need the scene, and I'll tell you why. Because it's the misinterpretation of Caesar's word from the bad ape. I can never pronounce his name.
Proximus.
Proximus Caesar, I think is what his name. It's his misinterpretation, as well as Rocca's respect towards Caesar, that's really thrives a lot of the themes in this movie. But instead of it feeling like it's about them and their interpretations, you still feel Caesar very strong because they gave us this moment at the opening of the movie. And also for all the people who might have been like, hey, this is a Planet of the Apes, another Planet of the Apes movie, the trailers are terrible. They immediately say, no, we're gonna tug at your heartstrings right from the beginning, and we're gonna show you that we mean business, we're gonna be respectful, and we're gonna give you something good.
Plus, it's been 7 years, so it's a little reminder where we left off. So
it reminds you of what Caesar built, and it launches. It's I'd say it's a good launch pad to go 300 years from there. Beautiful.
All right, so now we've been raving about the film. Now, is there anything you would say was confusing or something that you would change, or if you had to give it a strike?
Let me go first. Nope.
Okay, so Kevin didn't find anything confusing, or thought the whole film was perfect from beginning to end. Great. Okay, Mark.
There was some stuff that happened in the last half hour, and I know I'm not the only person who felt this way, because when we came out of the movie, you guys disappeared, and it was just me and Sarah sitting there talking, and she immediately started telling me what she thought of the movie, and she got confused in the last third of the film. And then I'm like, that's exactly how I felt. It almost felt like for the last half hour of the film, because the movie's 2.5 hours long, like there was a studio exec saying, we got to cut some stuff out, and this is maybe where they did it, because it seemed to move so fast. And there were moments where, you know, they capture May, and yet instead of putting her in a cage, she's walking around free. And I'm not necessarily sure why they would be letting this human walk around free. There's all this confusion at the end when, I mean, I have my theories of why she's walking around free. Maybe they were setting her up because she knew a lot about what was inside that vault they were trying to get into.
Yes, this is at the armory that was led by Proximus Caesar.
Yeah, and maybe they were hoping she would break into it like she does, so that she could open it up for them. But I don't think it's made very clear. And the only reason I think that might have been the case is because when she does come out of the vault, they're there waiting for her. But I think they could have done a little bit better with that. And also the ending, it got a little confusing during the ending battle of, you know, where did the bad apes go? Did they all get drowned in the water, and all the good apes were able to successfully escape? And I understand that the good apes were kind of led off, but there's a lot of stuff happening so fast that I wish that the rest of the movie up until that point takes its time, and it's clear, it's concise, it's perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. And then we get there, and to me, it felt a little bit rushed. Not, once again, like I said earlier, it didn't ruin the film for me at all. I'm still my second favorite movie of the year, all year. But it did, there was some stuff in there that I want to go back and watch it a second time after, because we all talked after the movie, and I want to take some of that stuff with me into it the second time to see, you know, what's going on. There's that scene where William H. Macy just opens the door and walks out like he's a free person. And you guys said that you saw him knock and there were apes' eyes in the window.
Yes,
when we talked about
she's under guard. She's not walking around free.
Yeah, because that's not how I took it. So I want to see about these little details that you guys said you caught that I missed, and maybe I missed because everything just started to move really fast.
And his room is high enough up in that ship that they felt like there was no way she was going to get off that level without being seen or falling to her death. I mean, it's pretty high up in that ship. Now, the reason they get out of there is because Noah is able, because of him being a chimp, is able to climb that no problem. And that's the reason she gets out of there. But she is under guard.
I just wish it had been set up a little bit more like, you know, War of the Planet of the Apes, where you could see like the clan that was captured. They seemed to be wandering around all around. And I understand when I thought about it, oh, wait a minute, he called it their kingdom. Yeah. There's one point where Proximus?
Yeah.
He calls it, he says, look out there, what do you see? It's my kingdom. And so maybe he's seeing it as their kingdom, so he doesn't feel the need to cage them up. But there were times where that was not, that one line maybe wasn't enough, because I was kind of like, why are they kind of walking around? And he's not whipping them or anything. And I would have loved to have delved into that a little bit more, the way we did the Eagle Clan. But that being said, once again, not enough to ruin this movie for me, because I had so much. That's what, a half hour of a 2.5 hour movie. I had 2 hours.
William H. Macy plays the character Trevathon. I wish they had changed that name. It's not an easy name to remember. I think he's the servant of Proximus. So
Right.
I don't think Proximus is thinking this guy's going to leave anywhere, because where's he going to go? He's being treated quite well, better than all the other ape slaves that they have. And he gets to read
He
Kurt
has a job.
Vonnegut to Proximus. I think he's happy there, so they're not going to think he's going to lead anywhere. And Mark, you had said that Kevin and I had left you. Well, we had left to get our Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes posters. This is why we left you behind. But you got one too.
I got one too, and then your wife got one because somebody. I'm trying to so they can see it. Somebody just gave her one. She didn't even go looking for one. Somebody just came up to her.
Sarah gets things all the time. People just go up and hand her things.
No, I just wish they had explored that a little bit more. I understand the movie was getting a little bit long, and I feel like the ending half hour didn't feel. It wasn't as strong as everything that led up to it. But
okay, I think there was so much to they were building to. It wouldn't have worked had they slowly put this last scene together. I think it worked for me. Now, for me,
I get it.
I feel that the biggest confusion came with separating the characters. Now, in the last trilogy, like Mark, you had said, they had given Caesar's son a slash. So, okay, we recognize him. And in the original Planet of the Apes, the orangutans are all in the orange, and the chimps are all in the green, and the soldiers are all in the leather tunics. Okay, we get that. There was so much story going on. There were so many apes now that I thought, okay, wait, who's on the horses and who's not in the horses? And I really had a hard time keeping track of them and going, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I lost part of the story. Where are we now? Where are we? And it wasn't until they really cut into a close-up of their eyes. Their eyes were extremely expressive. And that's how I recognized some of the apes, because of their eyes. But I really wish they had given us more. Yeah, their outfits were very very minimalistic. So from a long shot, it's like, who am I looking at here? I'm not really sure.
They could have done a little bit better job with that, because if you remember in Dawn, Koba looked very different than the other apes.
Yeah, well, yeah, he had that eye, that punctured eye.
And Caesar's wife had things in her hair. I mean, they did little things to do that. They could have done a better job with that. So
yeah.
But
so anyone going into the movie, just pay attention to who is wearing what and what marks they have, because it does get a little bit confusing, which could take you out of the story, and we don't want you to do that. Now, the other confusing thing was what do they call the humans? Echo. They say, oh, did you see that echo? There's another echo over there. They call the humans Echo, and I try to piece it together as to why. Are they echoing each other? Do they seem all as one being? They're echoing each other.
I have no clue. But it didn't even hit me. I just thought, now that you're saying it, it's kind of bugged me though, because I just thought it was a nickname they gave him. It didn't bother me, but now I'm like, yeah, why did they call them Echoes?
Yeah, I don't know.
Didn't faze me.
All right. Well, while we're sitting here laughing, let's go. Let's talk about a funny moment. Was there a funny moment?
The funniest moment?
Yeah, the funniest moment. And these films are they're very bleak, and because of the social commentary they've got to go through, they get very, very heavy. In War, they introduced the Bad Abe character, and he provided so much levity in such a heavy film, and he was much, much needed.
I'm okay.
Now, when looking back, at first I thought, is there a funny moment in this film? I've got one.
I got one.
Well, it's all the same one, isn't it?
Okay. This is the first time we ever hear an ape swearing.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Because Noah hears, I think, William H. Macy, him say the SH word. And then he repeats it. And then later on, when the going gets tough, he goes, shh.
The first time we hear that, I was like, I thought I heard something else. I'm like...
It didn't take me out like when we heard someone cuss in Andor. I thought, there should be no cussing in Star Wars. But in this, because it takes place here on this world, okay, we'll allow. It was the human swearing, and
That was your funniest moment?
that to me was the
Not
funniest
the-
moment. Kevin, beat that.
I have a name. Come on. Everybody laughed in the theater at that. I was like,
Okay.
Yeah.
that
I
got
got
a
a-
reaction from the entire audience.
I got a better moment.
So you're talking about when Rocket when May finally spoke and Rocket just dropped the bag on the ground.
I have a name. Meg.
It's priceless. Priceless.
Okay.
You know, I
Mark?
guess that would have been a funny moment for me if I hadn't already seen it in the trailer. That's the moment they show in the trailer. My funniest moment is an inside joke, and I think it's the biggest reaction that we all had, and Sarah was sitting there and had no idea. And that's when he calls her Nova, and she says they're all called Nova.
We will name her Nova. We name them all Nova.
We call them all Nova.
And the reason I love that so much is I hate in movies when Easter eggs are right on the nose. Like in Rise, when that one character says, "Get your stinking hands off me, you dirty human." I didn't like when he said that because that's too on the nose. Thank God it's saved by us hearing Caesar say his first word right afterwards. But I don't like it when it's on the nose like that. So when they called her Nova in War, I liked the Easter egg when it came out with the car
emblem from the Chevy Nova.
Yeah, the ornament. I thought that was great because that was more subtle.
Made sense.
But when they actually called her Nova, that was one thing I didn't like. So I feel like the writer here, or whoever came up with this line, saved that moment by having him say, "Oh no, they're all called Nova." Like every girl is called Nova by the apes.
It was also the delivery of the line. He turns to me and goes, "We call them all Nova."
All right, you know what? I got to admit, Mark, that trumps them all. that really was the funniest moment.
That was the moment. There were many moments in this movie where we all turned to each other, you know, and me and Richard were kind of elbowing each other because, you know, we had talked about things on our show in the past that it's hinting towards. But that was a moment where we all reacted all vocally with a laugh.
Yeah.
And Sarah was sitting over there silent because she didn't know.
Oh, Sarah knows about Nova. We've been watching enough apes that she knows Nova.
I don't remember a reaction from her.
All right, well, you know what? Now that we're on Easter eggs, let's talk about Easter eggs. Because there's been a whole bunch of them. So let's all go around one by one and discuss the Easter egg that stuck out most to us. Can I go first?
Yes.
Sure. All right. In the end, we see the Human Communication Center, which is finally revealed, and they're able to send out a signal to other humans. Great. This is what we need. We need to find other humans. We'll get these 3 big radars, and we're going to send out a signal. And someone responds back. They are from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Right.
That's where Taylor is from.
Yeah, that was a good
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah. This fort you speak of.
Yeah, exactly. I loved that Easter. It was very subtle. Because you're so taken aback by this big communication center that you don't really take it in at first, but later on it's like, Indiana, why India? I know why Indiana. All right, Kevin.
It's the Nova stuff. I thought the way they handled that was probably my favorite Easter egg. The way that Raka reveals that was just, I thought, priceless. But yours is great too.
Mark?
So I got 2, but I'm only going to mention one, and then we'll let Richard go again because you got a bunch, and then we'll come back to me for the second one. But my favorites, one was the zoo pictures that they start to rifle through, because we get all these references to the movies over and over again, and I even asked you, Richard, like the next day or something like that, do we remember ever seeing pictures like that in the movies? Because I don't remember them, but I definitely remember seeing images like that in the Trap episode of the television series. And 2 thoughts ran through my mind. One was, oh my God, cool. They're referencing the TV series. But the other thing that ran through my mind was, Richard, when you and I met Matt Reeves, we told him that when they made the next movies, they had to start referencing the TV series. And he said that was a good idea. Now, he didn't make this movie, but I'm wondering if he said anything to the filmmakers. Now, they probably didn't. I'm probably just wishful hoping.
I'm going with that. Matt said, okay, Wes, before you take the ball and run, I got some input from fans, okay? I know people don't like fan service, but there are people who do love fan service. I met these two guys, Talking Ape or something, and they wanted TV series references.
That may have happened. Maybe it didn't happen, because he got excited about the idea, and so who knows? But and it might just be that Wes Paul is a big fan of the TV series too, and he just came up with it on his own, or the writer. But I loved the fact that they were referencing the, I should say, live action.
Yeah, and it was the picture, and I'm pretty sure in Escape, when they go to the Armando Zoo, you do see some posters, but it's at a circus, understandable. But in the Trap episode, Urkel sees that big poster. It's like, wait a minute, we were in zoos behind cages, and takes that and chambers it for later on. And it's almost the same picture as we see as they're flipping through these kids' books. That's like, wait a minute, we were in zoos?
Okay, so maybe it was a reference to Escape, but I am taking it as a reference to the TV show.
Very much so, yes. Yeah, because in that armory, they have all these children's books, the alphabet, and they have one about a kid's day out at the park or at the zoo, and that's when they flip through those pages and see that one. Yeah, great. I think you and I both looked at each other like, okay, we know where you're going there. Now, another one that I'm going to say comes from the TV series, but you could say the movies too, is that the guerrilla sergeant named Silva, he had an Urkel helmet. It wasn't, to be honest, it looked more like the helmet that the guerrilla soldier wore in Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. But he did have a helmet that was kind of top heavy, and it wasn't exactly like you'd seen on Ursus or Urko, but it was very reminiscent of his helmet, and he was the guerrilla sergeant. So I'm thinking, okay, there's Urko right there.
Kevin, you have another one?
Pass.
Kevin? No, Kevin. You know the one that you laughed. This, to me, I thought you were going to go here when we're talking about the favorite funny moments. This is the one that I heard you laugh at the most. When they saw that doll.
Oh, right, the mama doll. Yeah, because I was like, I remember thinking to myself as they're moving towards the doll. I mean, there's enough time that I was able to load it in my head and go, it's gonna go mama. It's gonna do it, and it sounded to me like the same sample. I mean, if not, it was really close to the one from the original 1968 film.
It's funny, even in the theater, I could hear you go, mama. And that's when the doll said mama too.
Yeah. That one, you could see that was like watching a baseball pitcher. Here's the windup and the pitch, it was perfect. I love that stuff, because you know what does that do, Richard? That's another footstep in the direction of a 1968 reboot.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't exactly the same doll, but if it had been the same style of doll, that would have been great.
They, what they could do in 68, this makes sense within that universe. When they do a reboot of this, you do realize they're going to use a different doll, right, Richard?
No,
hopefully
I'm
that
about
doll.
They could have these dolls around and it gets buried somewhere, and maybe it is the same doll. That would be a great connection if it was the exact same doll.
I hope they're paying attention. Disney, you paying attention?
Maybe they won't do a reboot of the 1968, and they'll just figure out a way to have allowed these to bleed into that. That's what I'm kind of hoping for, but we never know. So far, I've loved everything they've done, so I'm going to stop second guessing them even after I see trailers.
Right.
So I don't know if this is a fabricated Easter egg on my part, because I'm just hopeful. But when we see that computer for the first time, the first thing that leaped into my head is, oh my God, Alan could have used that.
I thought the same thing.
The first 4 episodes, they have the disc. They're looking for a computer to put that disc in. And this is why it's probably a fabrication on my end and not an intentional Easter egg, is because when she pulls out the drive, it just looks like a drive. If she had pulled out a disc, like a CD or something, you wouldn't have. I would have been. Oh my God! I would have gone ape over that, man. I'd have been like, "This is the greatest movie made in the last 10 years." If she had just pulled out a disc. But the very first thing I thought of was, oh my God, that's the computer that Alan needed, because there are some computers in the television series, but he never ever finds when he uses the disc in. And so when that was the first thing that I thought was, oh my God, that's Alan's computer. That's the one he needed. And I really wish she had pulled a disc out, because she didn't. It's probably me reading too far into it, but I don't care because it makes me happy.
I think had they thought of it, they would have used the disc.
Oh my God, that would have been amazing. I don't care. I don't care about anything else this year. This is the best moment in movie history over the last 10 years. It would
Mark
have
would
been
have gotten
amazing.
up and left. Like, Mark, where are you going? The movie's not over. No, it's over for me.
You go out on a high, and you can't get much higher than this.
I always thought watching that first in the TV series and him thinking there's going to be a computer around with apes that have evolved to the level that they are in the TV series or the first movie. I'm thinking to myself, right, all the capacitors are going to be, there's nothing going to be left of those, of any hardware like that. And so I thought, boy, he's really reaching. That's what I thought when I was watching the TV series. But I don't know. We don't know how this is all going to culminate, but I just couldn't imagine that they were going to find anything because there's a lot of evolution left in these guys. We definitely in 300 years have seen some evolution in these apes themselves, and that they're talking more. They're talking, there's some sign language, but not nearly as much as the previous films, right? 300 years, they're going to get more talking. Well, as these apes keep evolving, I'm expecting suits coming up soon. It's obviously not the next one, but, who knows? But I want to see apes in suits. I want to see them in their adobe houses or whatever that is. I want to see I want to see the society progress.
In the Flintstones houses?
Yeah.
Oh, they will. And there were also a lot of auditory Easter eggs. We heard a little bit of Jerry Goldsmith's themes weave into the soundtrack, which I thought was brilliant.
That was great. I loved how the score really kind of felt like a throwback at time to that.
Yeah, and during the field chase with the high angle shot and the very low shot, that was brilliant. Then you hear those war horns. When I heard the war horns, that made me so happy. I love those war horns, and there was the same ones.
The way they use the nets between two horses.
And the nets, yeah.
That was a really interesting scene, because it was a scene that paid such homage to the first Planet of the Apes without being the same scene, because in the original Planet of the Apes, it was about enslaving the humans. In this Planet of the Apes, it really became about getting that particular girl, getting May, because they kept pointing to May saying, go after her. So they were able to pay homage to the original movie without giving us the exact same scene, because there was different intent. They were going after all the humans to enslave the humans. But in this movie, they seem to be focusing on just May.
Yes, exactly. Because she's the one who can speak, and they know that she's connected to these other humans,
right?
Because the way she's dressed, I think they know that we find her, we find the others.
I think that they knew who they were after, because then when we get to their camp, I don't remember seeing any humans outside of May and William H. Macy's character.
Yeah, I don't think there were.
They were after her.
Yeah, so whoever they captured, they either let him go or they didn't bring him back to camp. So right. It's the same scene, but they said, but we're in a different movie. We're going to make it be something very different, but we're going to pay homage to this.
Yeah, that's a good question, because they had all those ape slaves digging away at that, trying to get through that door.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess, why bring humans, these weaklings? Why? What are they going to do for us? Let's get these chimpanzees who are very strong. Maybe that was the reasoning why you didn't see any other humans.
Right.
All right, one more I want to get to, and this one made me do a little homework. They mentioned the Lawgiver. He's the orangutan prophet whose ideals form the basis of apes' laws and their customs. And in Battle for the Planet of the Apes, we see him played by John Huston.
In the beginning, God created beast and man so that both might live in friendship and share dominion over a world at peace. But in the fullness of time, evil men betrayed God's trust, and in disobedience to his holy word waged bloody wars, not only against their own kind, but against the apes, whom they reduced to slavery. Then God in his wrath sent the world a Savior, miraculously born of two apes, who had descended on Earth from Earth's own future.
It's confusing as to why they brought him up. And were they thinking that Caesar was the lawgiver?
Yes.
And then later on, because all the orangutans had transcribed the laws, it went from Caesar to the orangutans.
At this point, okay, so here's how I digested that. At this point in their evolution, there's enough around that understand that there was an ape, Caesar, and Caesar had laws and rules, whatever. As we discussed earlier, we see that the orangutan, Raka, understands the function of a book. Oh, this has meaning to them. These symbols tell them things. So I think what we're seeing is an evolution that's going to get us to, I'm going to guess that it's going to be an orangutan that is going to be the one that comes up with the alphabet, writes the scrolls. He who comes up with the alphabet and can write is going to get the top billing. I don't know how they're going to, if they're going to put Caesar within the scrolls. I don't know if they're going to treat him like Jesus in the scrolls, or
all the laws and customs are based on his teaching. Right.
I don't know what they're going to do when they go to write these scrolls, but I certainly see the groundwork being placed. In Raka's character, and if they keep going along those paths, it's going to be very similar to the 1968 hierarchy that we see with the orangutans and the chimps and the gorillas. That the gorillas are the army, that they handle the army. Most of the science and academia is handled by the chimpanzees, and the governing and the religion seems to be handled by the orangutans. So it seems to me like they're, without clobbering us over the head, I think that's overall a great thing in this movie, whether it's the Easter eggs, the story. It's not a bunch of, see what we did there? It's very smoothly woven into this in such a way that you're not getting clobbered with it. It's fed to you what I feel like is in the appropriate way, which is why I say when they pick up the ball and run in the right direction, it's not buffoonery, that it's thoughtful, it's planned.
My take on this is like the game of telephone, where you start in one spot and you end up somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Because when Raka says the lawgiver, first of all, we all gasped.
Mm-hmm.
We all, oh my God, because me and Richard and I guess is how it's said, after the other movies, we talked numerous times, probably even on the show, about, are they trying to hint to the fact that Caesar is the lawgiver? And when Raka says what he says, mentioning the lawgiver, to me that said Caesar was the lawgiver, hands
Absolutely.
down. No other way to interpret it.
You're right.
But then, and as I'm listening to what you're saying, things are clicking in my head. It seems to me like once they start separating things out, the orangutans are seen as the intellectuals.
Right.
And it's even an orangutan who starts to tell Noah about Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
And he says there were a group of them that held these secrets, but he was the only one left. I have a feeling that as the orangutans start to become the intellectuals, they're the ones who start telling the story over and over again of Caesar. And because everybody's always hearing it from orangutans, it just becomes the lawgiver gets forgotten that he's not forgotten, but they just start to kind of assume he's an orangutan because the orangutan's the one always telling the story, when in reality he wasn't. So it's like a game of telephone.
That's what I'm saying is, along what you're saying, is that if an orangutan is the one that comes up with the alphabet and writes the scrolls down, it would make sense to me that that statue that we see of the Lawgiver becomes what they believe.
Right.
Like look at the old paintings of Jesus. They have him as a sandy-haired white guy, right? It's like absolutely. It's whoever's telling the story, whoever's got the paintbrush, whatever, they get to decide what the guy looks like, right?
We also get the impression from the original movies and the TV series that the orangutans want to be known as the intellectuals.
Mm-hmm.
So they wouldn't want all the other apes to think that the actual real intellectual was not an orangutan. And so they might start doing stuff like that. I don't know. I read Richard's review and he had mentioned the Lawgiver as an orangutan. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Did I misunderstand that? And then we talked and now I'm listening to you talk and it's starting to all kind of come together in my head. Now, of course, we may get future movies that prove us completely wrong.
But for right now. But the orangutans did construct a monument to Caesar, the one who cries at the end of battle. So they did give him some love by making a statue of him as well. So it wasn't just, hey, we're going to build a statue of ourselves and everyone else. Sorry.
But in the dialogue, they do kind of speak to what I'm talking about. And I think, Mark, you referenced it a little bit too, in that the word is getting distorted. Caesar's word is getting distorted. They're already playing into this a little bit within this storytelling. So if hopefully it's the next writing team, they keep these guys together, or that there's somebody in the next movie that is aware enough to see what the cues were and not feel compelled to take us in the wrong direction here. But they're already heading that way.
Well, hopefully there's no one from the Proximus camp who says, oh, I got a couple of things to say. Like, no, get this guy out of here.
Well, that's the key of what Kevin's saying right now is that, we can already see it starting to get distorted because it's really distorted in Proximus's camp.
Sure.
They got very bad Wi-Fi there, so the apes can't go and check. Wait a minute, let me Google this.
Well, that's because the Wi-Fi no longer exists.
We didn't mention exactly what William H. Macy's character's job is in this film, but his job is to read the books to Proximus Caesar. And you can tell that he's been reading Julius Caesar and some other books of that ilk to him because of the way, not only the way he acts, but it's giving him ideas. Form a kingdom, follow me. What a beautiful day. There's all these nods that you can tell that he's starting to get ideas and starting to realize, without us getting hit over the head with it, spoon-fed, oh, this is how he learned to lead and this is how he learned to do that. You can tell that whatever he's been reading him has been causing him to think, you know what? What if I change it? What if I'm the king? What if I'm Caesar?
How badly would you have flipped if he had said, what an Urkotastic day?
What a wonderful day! What a
Urkotastic
day!
Oh, that's the time. That's the moment I would have run out of the theater. It's like, no, nothing can beat that.
Right.
But now, Kevin, with that being said, do you think he is twisting the words of the ape Caesar or Julius Caesar?
I think
if he's read these books about Julius Caesar, does he even know about the ape Caesar?
A good question. It feels like he does, and he's leaning into that just enough to that if anybody had heard about it, that they would think, oh, he's Caesar. Maybe not at all. Maybe I could be completely wrong there, but it felt to me like he said, yeah, Caesar, but me, Caesar, I'm the king, and I'm gonna make sure that it's my words. I want them to think I'm the lawgiver. It was all undertone. It was all underneath, which is fine because I do like you to be as the audience to to understand it enough that you can digest it and see in your own way understand what's going on, what the subtext is, I guess, and how he's behaving and what he's saying.
My question to you, Kevin, would be: do you think that it's Proximus, and his name's Proximus Caesar? Let me say that again. His name is Proximus Caesar, and do you think it's him manipulating the words of Ape Caesar from the earlier movies? Or this takes place 300 years later. Do you think the word has been twisted over time to the point where this is just what he believes? Because the best villains are the ones who don't know that they're evil. They just believe this is the way, because his goal is to get into that armory because he thinks that what's in the inside is going to help him, become leader and take down the humans and all that fun stuff.
He says whatever's behind those doors, I think, is going to evolve me. And he doesn't say I know. He says he has a feeling. He thinks it shows he's formulating opinions on things that he's heard and seen and so on and so forth.
So he didn't just hear what Caesar had to say and said, I'm going to twist those words around. It's just over time, because the way people are, or I should say the way apes are, things just start to kind of evolve into something else. And
well, you're right.
But I think he's got a bigger hand in helping evolve it to the point where I wanted to evolve into what serves me.
Right. If he had heard anything, and if he learned anything from the readings from the books that William H. Macy's doing to him, and he's smart enough to figure out that he must make him something, then he's smart enough to figure out how to twist that to his will. That's how I see it. That I think he's smart enough to realize, because he's collecting apes from all over. We can only assume that Rocca's clan, he never says they were all murdered. They're just all gone. He's the last one. If there's any people from Rocca's clan there, or other clans like Rocca's, we can assume that Rocca's isn't the only clan. There might be other clans. And if any of those were consumed into Proximus's, he would have heard some of the stories. But he's also hearing from the books that are being read to him. He seems to be smart enough to say, all right, I'm going to make this me. I'm going to put this all about me. I'm going to put it all in the big pot, turn the fire on and stir it up and make a me stew. And that's what I'm going to feed everybody.
I'm assuming there's a ton of more clans out there, because not only you have Rocca's clan,
you
got Noah's clan, and they're on the West Coast. They're over near Los Angeles, and
we have to end up on the East Coast.
And we have to end up on the East Coast. So it's really, really interesting. And I'm wondering if the West Coast becomes a forbidden zone, because we're seeing a lot of buildings and stuff. So do they only live on that, or is there apes all over the world during every movie in this series?
We've got several more. Let's extrapolate here. If they decide to do a 1968 reboot, the evolution of these apes have to get to the level that we see in that movie. They have to be upright, with walking, more like humans, in suits, so on and so forth. So this was a 300-year jump. When we go to do that film, it's going to have to be a lot more years. I mean, look at our evolution. Look, we found skeletal stuff that shows us with, large craniums, and they can say, oh yeah, this was Homo sapien, it walked upright, so on and so on. So we're going to have to get to that big of a jump to tell that story the way I'm hoping that we get to.
We're definitely seeing the seeds of it, because the orangutan is the one who's got all the books and everything.
So it's going to be a big jump. Yeah. It's going to be a big
and
big jump.
We're going to get there. And I think between now and the 1968 apes that we see are going to be a couple of hundred more years. So we're only going to see this if people go out and see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
So go see this film.
It's the box office. It keeps on making money week after week. They're going to make more of these. And the more they make, the more we're going to get to the 1968 film. So everyone, go and see this a couple times.
I think the first paragraph of Richard's review says it all, because we're getting a lot of franchises out there that just seem to be getting thrown out there. Not a lot of care for the franchise. It seems money, money, money. This one right now seems like they're treating it with all the care they can.
Right. Somebody
right
cares.
right down to the visual effects. I mean,
Right.
just everything looks so digital out there right now. But these Apes movies, Richard
And this is
said,
going to set the future for films coming up. Oh, if we make smarter films, if we take our time, they're
Right.
going to make so much more money, and they will have a place in the zeitgeist. A lot of these films that come out are big budget. They may make a lot of money, but they're nowhere to be seen in the zeitgeist.
Together, audience strong.
Yeah, this is the opportunity for people to say, no, we don't only want our franchises to continue, but we want them to continue in a smart, thought out way.
Yeah, thoughtfully.
All right, with that, let's move on, because we put this out into our Facebook group and the Facebook page. We ask the apes out there to give us their reviews on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So let's read some in Listen to the Apes. First, let's read one from Patrick Isso, who I think at this moment he is seeing a double bill of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and The Phantom Menace. Oh,
whoa,
Patrick,
wow.
I wish I was there right there with you. He says, even though I pride myself on being a classic Apes fan, I definitely thoroughly enjoyed this movie and the Easter eggs they threw in. Thumbs up all around.
There you
Good
go.
deal. All right, Anthony Mark says, I had to go and see this movie. I just got out of the theater. I enjoyed it very much. It was a compelling story, great characters. It's visually stunning. I recommend we all go see this movie. Yes. I wish that Proximus Caesar wore a helmet like Urko.
No, he needed the crown.
We got one
He
with
wanted the
Silva.
crown.
You got one with Silva. He wore one. Jonathan Champney says, in a word, phenomenal. But Harry Barnes, he goes the other direction, and he says, weak formulaic script.
Who's this Harry Barnes?
He had commented in our page, and I'm not sure I agree with him on that. But you know what? We all have our opinions, and we did ask for everyone's opinion. That's his. All right. Billy Shears says, I really enjoyed it. Some great characters. Looking forward to the sequel already. Proximus is a badass. Jason Brown says, saw it Tuesday, the best we have compared to the originals. Oh, that's a good statement. But as we have seen with many productions recently, prosthetics on actors still works, and so hoping they realize this and give us characters we want in action figures again. I don't think we'll ever go back to prosthetics, just because audiences are so much they're used to the digital makeup, used to the mocap. We won't go backwards.
What I'm hoping for is Weta is doing all these kind of figures for like the Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, and they did a whole bunch of Planet of the Apes action figures, and they're not really action figures, but figures. And they had that they did that model that a client of mine gave me of the Mount Rushmore with all the apes' heads and all that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they take this movie and give us some figures from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, there's a lot of great characters that just scream to be made into an action figure. All right. Peter Marino says the homage to The Hunt is worth the price of admission. Fans of the originals will squeal with glee at the Mama doll. Hey, Kevin, he's talking about you.
It made me laugh. Yep.
All right. John Vetter III. All right. Are y'all sitting down? He says, meh, I didn't hate it. It did feel like an old school Disney movie from the time before they went woke. If you are expecting an action-packed movie, you will be disappointed. It does have its moments of action, but for a 2.5-hour movie, the action is few and far between, and some may consider it a talkie, which is in itself doesn't make a bad movie. It certainly has Easter eggs. The scenery was fantastic, and the special effects were amazing, but the story is just the same old rehash that has been done to death. There are some things that, given the amount of time has passed, doesn't seem plausible. But to be fair, I feel that I have to see it again in a better theater, wearing my glasses and without someone behind me talking and narrating the entire movie. Yes. Okay. First of all, yes, you got to see it again. If someone was distracting you, they may have taken you out of the film. And once again, this is why I don't go to the movies.
Okay. He mentions two things here. One, he says it did feel like an old school Disney movie from a time before they went woke. This doesn't feel like a woke movie, although, one of the leads is a female and she's a really strong character. It just feels very, very proper to the story. It feels like it's there because the story calls for it. So in a way, I love how they incorporate this female character. It doesn't feel forced in there to be woke. It feels like it belongs. And the other thing that he says is it does have its moments of action, but for a 2.5-hour movie, the action is few and far between. Did you guys feel that way? I thought
no,
not whatsoever.
I feel like you saw a different movie.
Yeah,
I think John was too just distracted by the people behind him.
Yeah,
because there was a lot of action, a little bit too much action at some points. All right, Dean Preston, our buddy Dean Preston. Now, I did edit this down because he didn't want a witch hunt. All right, he says, I think I was expecting too much. Thought it was pretty average. I thought I was watching scenes from the Jungle Book. Some great tie-ins with the originals, music, scarecrows, the hunt scene. A bit too predictable for me. Came out of the cinema feeling rather flat. 7.5 out of 10. That's a pretty high score for a movie that it sounds like he didn't like all that much.
Yeah.
So anyone he doesn't want a witch hunt, so leave Dean alone.
That's why I didn't go make torches.
All right, with that, let's end it on a high note from our good buddy Adam O'Brien. And he writes, a unique continuation from the last trilogy that not only adds to the long list of Planet of the Apes lore, but charts a course for something totally new and surprising. For fans old and new, this is a start to an engaging trilogy. Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Got to end on a high note. All right.
Yep.
So thank you to all the apes who had given us your reviews, good or bad. Still, they were your reviews, and we respect that. Well, that does it for this episode of Talking Apes. We want to thank Disney for inviting us to the media screening and for Mark somehow chiming into this recording. He wasn't scheduled to be here, but he heard vampires, pigs, and puddles, and boom.
I had to come. I had to be here. I had to make sure you didn't talk about that with this movie because I didn't see any of that here.
Do you still have our password? How'd you even get in?
I have my ways.
You said the words. If you say those words, it's like saying, hey, Kool-Aid. Mark just comes besting into your podcast.
I was going to try to make a joke, but I don't think I can top that.
Okay. I was going to go with Candyman and Beetlejuice, but I think Kool-Aid Man beats that. All right. Now, we want to thank everyone for listening and watching the show on YouTube or listening to the show on your podcatcher. Thank you so much. Thank you to Patrick Izzo for taking care of the Talking Apes Facebook group and posting the countdown to the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Thanks,
We
Patrick.
also want to thank Rob Dellinger, who composed the theme to Talking Apes. Please check out Rob's band. He's got a great band, and when you go and see him, you got to call out Talking Apes, and he'll play the theme for you.
Every time.
Yeah, he might not do it, but you know what? Pressure. You can find his band at alpharhythmkings.com. All right, Kevin, are you ready for this next part?
I'm all ready. I'm channeling
We
Sarah.
are part of the Skywalking Network.
Skynet.
Even Mark's in on the action. Where you can find other great shows like the Max Effects Podcast, the Neverland Clubhouse, Totally Tell Me Everything, Star Warsologies, and the flagship show Skywalking Through Neverland. And you can catch the YouTube shows Today in Star Wars History and Collectopolis. Kevin, you just had a Collectopolis come out this last week.
We did, and it was the cool things that we saw at WonderCon 2024. And I urge everybody to check them out because there's at least 2 things there that will probably make you reach for your wallet.
All right, you can check that out at the Skywalking Through Neverland YouTube channel. Now, stay tuned for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show right after the credits. So until next time, this is Richard.
This is Kevin.
This is Mark.
Now go see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and go Ape.
I'm sorry, I think you got a new one now. It's Together Ape Strong.
Together
Right.
Ape Strong.
Together, apes go ape.
All right, we are out. All right, so Mark, you got a couple of seconds because we'll do the intro. By then, you'll be set, right?
All right, yeah, I'll just do this. Because I'm assuming you're going to edit it, so.
Yes. Now, I'm going to ship it to you, and you're going to edit it. Just like old times. Bye!
Yeah, right.
And the gorillas become the intellectuals. First of all, it starts off with Raka doing the teaching, and he's an orangutan.
You mean the orangutans are the intellectuals?
What did I say?
Gorillas.
The gorillas.
The gorillas.
Right now, Urkel's going, see? I knew it. I knew someone identified our intelligence.
That's what I meant.
What a
Urko-tastic.
day!